Welcome to We Are Not Here to Tick a Box with David Kane and Debbie Hayes. Episode 3, Listening.
So episode 3 already. And at the end of the last episode, we touched on a subject which is very dear to our hearts: listening. And I'm rather passionate about listening. Answer, David. And in one of the first conversations that we had, we spoke about the difference between hearing and listening. And my take on this is that the majority of the population, not everybody, but the majority of the population has a capacity, a physical capacity to hear. But not everybody has learned the skill of listening.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. And to be fair, again, life is a journey. Listening is a skill that I think you've got to continuously work at as well. I think it's something that I've had challenges with at certain points in my life. I was hearing, I wasn't listening, and I think for me, I think once you understand the dynamics of listening, so hearing is receiving information. That's all it is. It's just receiving it.
Yeah.
The key element then is, do you understand what it is that is being said? Then evaluate it. Yeah, how does this fit? What are my learnings from this? And then respond. Now, that may be that you're responding to somebody in terms of they're coming to you for help and guidance. You receive it, you understand it, you evaluate it, and you respond trying to give the best advice and guidance. But equally, it can be an internal thing where you receive a message and you've got to go off on a voyage of discovery, understand what this message is saying to you, evaluate it properly, and of course then respond to yourself and to others the learnings that you've got from the message that you've got. And the thing is, you cannot understand or evaluate if you are not present and connected.
Yeah.
And that is the real key element. And I think we live in a digital age. We live in an age where all too often we allow technology to do the job for us. And the problem with that is we lose connection. We possibly miss the ability to truly interpret what somebody is saying, confusion, misunderstandings, those type of things. And I think you mentioned it in a previous episode, that we just need to make sure that wherever possible, best case scenario, we're present face to face. We actually can see the whole experience of body language, everything that goes with it. Or at the very least, we try and do it verbally, whether that be use things like Zoom, Teams, etc., or a telephone, because written communication, I think, is holding us back in terms of truly listening and truly understanding what people are trying to say to us.
Well, I think in listening, it's important to understand that it's not just the words. It's the words that are unspoken, the tone, the pitch, the pace. There are so many different things. Even, I'm going to touch on your point here about the digital aspect, I think has perhaps numbed the sense of listening, I'm going to say, like, holistically. So I'm very good at listening by I can feel the room, feel the temperature of the room, and really trusting what are those signals saying to me. Now, a phrase I heard of probably a couple of years ago now that really resonated with me is, we've moved from the industrial age. At the pinnacle of the industrial age, we got the computer and we turned into the information age. And we are probably nearing the saturation of the information age, because our human brain cannot possibly take in all the information that's being presented to us. And this then will force us into the intuition age, or the age of intuition.
Okay.
Now, we can only get there if we have got that sense of connection to ourselves. Because if we've lost that, we will be still in this saturation of information, not being able to discern it all because there's so much.
Yeah.
So almost like the pinnacle of the information will force us back.
Yeah.
Like we talked about in the last episode about experiences sometimes point us backwards. If we're saturated in information, it says we've become disconnected from us.
Yeah.
And when we really get into that place and we trust ourselves because we've got that sense of intuition, we'll feel whether something's off as well.
Yeah.
We'll know it. It's like an innate wisdom as to, the words are there. This isn't adding up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know my hashtag, feel, see, and listen. That's my hashtag.
Yes.
You know, all of the senses. You know, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, the unspoken word often is more powerful than the spoken. And you know, in terms of, you know, we spoke off camera about certain things that we have this information overload. In order to make things like employee engagement surveys, 360 we talk about, more pertinent. I think sometimes they can be quite vast, too vast. I think we need to understand what it is that we're trying to measure and going bite-sized.
Yeah. What do we want to understand?
Meaningful. Because sometimes the non-important areas dilute the important areas. So to have that clarity of, well, look, we need to measure this, we need to listen about what's going on in these areas. So in order to really allow people the time, because some of these surveys take a long time to fill in, to really give us
too long, I would say, because they're not focused on what's really meaningful,
really important, and to narrow them down. But then equally, again, listen to what is actually written, but actually also listen to what is not. And, you know, my example of this would be, you know, and I'll talk firsthand on this, that, you know, whenever employment engagement surveys came out, you know, it was measured. And it was almost like you're in competition, region against region, in terms of how many people were filling them in. And, you know, you were constantly reminded, you know, you need to get more of your people filling them in.
Yeah.
Why aren't they filling them in? That's probably the most important.
Well, there's a massive clue in that, isn't there? Yeah. There's the clue.
What is the natural response? Because if it's the natural response you want, because those people are choosing to provide you with the information that you want. If it was for example, if the completion rate of a region or a site or whatever was 60%, well, actually, the measurement next year is going to be completion rate. What do we need to go and do in this part of the business to get engagement working to the point that when we come back in a year's time, we see an increase of natural engagement?
Because people want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they are invested in giving that feedback.
Yeah.
Because either they want to give great feedback or that there are messages that need to be listened to.
Yeah.
They need to be heard and listened to.
Yeah.
And people feel safe then to do that.
Well, absolutely. And that is it, isn't it? I mean, and, you know, and again, you know, you think about, you know, this bit about listening, talking now about employee engagement surveys, you know, there's lots of reasons why people won't do that. And a lot of the times because they believe they're not being listened to. So you want to listen to their views, but because they don't feel as if they've been listened to, they don't wish to provide you with the information because they don't see a purpose in it. You know, they see
isn't it?
Yeah, they see it as a merry-go-round.
If you don't listen to me, I'm not going to listen to you. And then this becomes the divide, there becomes the silos.
Yeah.
We know how it plays out.
Yeah, it plays out. I do. It plays out pretty badly in every instance, and it really, really does. So yeah. I mean, you know, I think listening and connection, they're very, very connected. You know, the synergy between those two is key. And you know, in order to do that, again, you know, you talk about what always upsets me in most businesses that I work with. around this point of listening. By truly listening, you can move forward. They always say, don't they, that the day you stop learning, you stop moving forward. Well, to learn, a lot of the time you've got to listen. And in life, whether it be friend, I mean, you're very fortunate with probably your friends and your family, and the fact that because you're around them a lot, you do get the feedback. You do get pointers because they care for you, they love you, and they'll give you the advice and guidance. But of course, in a working environment, one-to-ones, and I call them development reviews. I don't call them performance reviews. I hate the word performance review. It's a development review. You said you don't know what you don't know in a previous episode. I don't like the word weaknesses. I prefer opportunities to grow. Don't think words like that. That's where I go. But the amount of times I do work with a client where the last time a colleague has had a one-to-one, a proper sit-down meeting with their line manager of 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, that's not a culture of listening.
No, and I think we need to understand here the value of somebody being listened to. If I feel, or anybody else, probably, I'm going to speak for myself, if I feel listened to, I feel valued, I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel listened to, I feel understood. So if I feel all those things, that says to me, this person values me. Now let's look at the opposite of that. If I'm not being listened to, probably don't feel valued. Now, motivationally, people want to make a contribution. They want to make a difference.
Yeah.
They do that because they want to feel valued. They want to know that they count and what they do is counting to the business.
Yeah.
So it's so important for people to be listened to. They know they matter then. They know that they're valued, that their expertise is valued, their contribution is valued.
Yeah.
What is somebody going to do in that circumstance? They're going to contribute even more.
100%. Absolutely. But there's another angle that we can look at here in terms of listening. Why does somebody not listen? Now, there'll be a multitude of reasons, but a lot of the time it's because they're hurt. They're hurt in some way. Now that may be business related, it may be privately related, but the natural, all of us would choose to listen to wise advice, to things that are going to make us better in life. Of course we would. So, as a manager, if you're trying to get somebody to listen to good, honest feedback that would make somebody better, improve them, and for whatever reason you can see, you can feel, you can listen to the fact that they're not taking that on board, I would, through the work that I do now as well, I would also suggest that people just check in. Are they hurt in some way? Has the organization hurt them in some way? Has there become a disconnection? Is there something that we've got to do first? Because it's like the old adage, if you keep throwing stuff at a wall, you'd hope some of it'll stick, but actually the chances are, if somebody's hurt, it won't. It'll just keep falling off because they're not connected. They've lost that connection. They've lost the trust. Something that you've said quite a few times there. This connectivity, the transparency, the trust, all of these things. So just because of the recent work that I've been doing, I would also throw onto that. If somebody isn't listening, I would challenge, well, why is that? Are they hurt? And if they are hurt, the emphasis then has got to go to care. And actually go, well, okay, we need to, we see the good in this person, believe in this person, or else they wouldn't, we wouldn't have married them, or we wouldn't have employed them in the first place. Something is wrong. We need to investigate what that is, because it could be that they're hurt, and that is what's stopping them from listening, but also it's stopping them from offering their opinion as well, i.e. you can't listen to their reality. So these are the things that we've also got to be careful about.
Absolutely. So we have to, I think we just need to say there really about it is taking the time, isn't it? Take the time to truly listen, not hear. Take the time to truly listen, the words, the pauses, the silence.
I'll tell you what would be a really interesting thing for maybe somebody to do just as a straw poll. You know, what is our business built upon? And one of the answers is a listening culture, but put other answers around it.
Yeah.
Business performance, whatever it you may be. But in there is the option of a listening culture.
I think it's that integrity, isn't it? Is that an alignment? Is all that in place?
Yeah, because exactly, you know, we I'm sure you've heard it, you know, we have a listening culture. Okay, how do you test that? And we'll just leave that hanging there. How is that tested? And that's
it has to be lived and breathed, doesn't it? Not promoted, lived.
Yeah. That's been quite in depth. That's been quite serious, I think. That one.
I think it just shows the importance of it.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. It's critically important to listen.
Yeah. And you mentioned it as well, tone, pace. I think that, you know, people who've watched previous episodes might have seen a different tone and pace to this one.
Yeah.
Because of the topic, how important it actually is. So, yeah, interesting.
Absolutely. Let us know your thoughts.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching. Join us on the 8th of November for episode number 4.